Hey there, for you who don't know me, my name is Ian Pazlowski. I have a 20-person CSA in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. That is growing zone 3B. With growing the zone 3B, our first end of frost is about the beginning of June, maybe late May, depending on the year. And also about the second week in September is our first frost date. So we have roughly about 3 months of growing without a frost. So everything is fast and needs to be cold hardy if it's not going to be done by the frost. So what we're going to do today is going to go through a garden tour of things that are really going off right now, like tomatoes and squash are really coming into their own right now, same with peppers. And I'm going to go over things that I've done succession planting, like cabbage and broccoli and cauliflower, spinach, things like that that are a bit more cold hardy. They'll go in later into the season. And I'll also go into what I use for season extension. Season extension is very important in this climate. Being that it's such a short growing season, we need to extend things as much as possible. So we're using lots of things that are going to help prevent the frost from destroying our plants and making it a little bit easier. So things that are going in later in the season are a bit more cold hardy than, say, a pepper or a tomato. And I'll show you what I'm doing to extend my season. Let's get into it. All right, so first up, squash. More specific, I did sugar pumpkins this year. Sugar pumpkins were just a trial to see how they turn out, see how they are for cooking with, baking with. And I think they're going to do fairly well because as a plant, I think they produced about 4 pumpkins and I only had 2 plants. So you do the math, 8 pumpkins, not too bad. Also, I planted buttercup squash. Some people might have different names for this, but for what we call it is buttercup squash. And I planted roughly 20 of those. And of those 20, about 12 of them survived. Not a great transplant rate. Something I have to work on for next year. And then over on this side, I planted another 20 butternut squash. And for the butternut squash, this is a sea of squash. For the butternut squash, I planted 20 of them. And they actually are just really starting to come on now. But there's a lot of them. I mean a lot, I mean a lot. Like right there, that's gonna be ready in about a week's time. Give it a week, I'll be ready to go. But I planted 20 of those, and like those, I think about 10 survived. But of those 10, they're heavy producers, so 20-person CSA, people are gonna get a lot of it. Over on this side, half of this row was pickling cucumbers, and the other half was slicing cucumbers, and the cucumbers are done. They're at the point where their picklings are starting to go orange and weird colors, and the slicing are starting to get really curly, and they're just not lasting. They're not having a great result. So cucumbers are done for the year. Chicken. It's always great to see all the different seasons because you go to the store and everything's there. Cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, everything's ready, right? But when you actually grow a garden, not everything's ready at the same time. So it's always great for me to see, but also for our CSA customers to see that there's different seasons to everything. And cucumbers have been on. We've been having cucumbers for the last month and a half, and people are getting sick of cucumbers, I'm sure, by this point. So now it moves into a new season where we have squash and tomatoes and peppers. It's just a season for everything. This row right here, this is split between Juliets, which are coming on very heavy right now. Just did a picking, so there's not a lot of ripe ones. And then also the sun golds. The sun golds are always going. There's always something going on with sun golds. There's always something ripe. Picked just yesterday, and there's already gonna be lots in a couple days ready. Look at right here. Sun golds are great because you can have a plant or a tomato plant that comes on early, is ready by like late July, and then goes all the way up to the frost. And I'm sure it would go even longer. It's just such a heavy producing plant that always makes an amazing product. Okay, this row right here, it's jalapenos. Man, oh man, do jalapenos like to grow, hey? Beautiful though, guys. Planted about 25 plants, had 22 survive, and each one is loaded with jalapenos. Then the other half of this 50-foot bed is tomatoes. Beefsteak tomatoes are just starting to turn and doing pretty well. Had a little problems with blossom end rot this year, but I think we got it figured out and everything's rolling. Tomatoes are looking nice and healthy. 50-foot bed, all full of peppers. So 25 feet is a Ruba pepper, and they're just producing super heavy. It's a great product for a nice small pepper that you snack on, throw into salads. Look at that, amazing. And then the other half of the row is a standard bell pepper, and they're full, just absolutely full, just like the other peppers right there. Done great so far this year with peppers. It's this row covering with the drip irrigation. It's done amazing this year. Highly recommend it. Invest the money in it because it's going to pay off in the long run. Next we have the summer squash row. So I planted 30 summer squash, half zucchini, half patty pan. And you can see they're still producing very well. I probably trimmed them twice already. Oh, get a leaf out of there. Trimmed them twice already, but they're still producing very well. Getting a nice amount of moisture, still watering them, so they're still going. And the great thing is, being as such hot temperatures and there's such great airflow out here with the wind, that I haven't gotten any powdery mildew yet, which is usually spells the end for most summer squash. So as long as the powdery mildew and the frost holds off, I'm just gonna let it go. See how it does. You see we've got a little bit of hail damage on it, but for the most part, zucchini are pretty resilient and grow super fast. Super fast. And right beside the zucchini and the summer squash is our kale. Kale has done pretty well. Cabbage butterflies were probably a big issue for about a month now, and they've really toned down. But now flea beetles have moved in. Flea beetles are just decimating everything that they touch. And if you listen to it, you can literally hear flea beetles falling off the kale. I'm going to leave this kale in here because we should have a frost in about a week or so, killing most of these flea beetles. Alright, so this kale's starting to get hit with flea beetles, but I'm going to leave it in, or some of it I'm going to leave in, because I want to see what the frost does. Apparently when it gets really super cold with frost, the plant gets shocked and converts its starches to sugar. It makes the kale actually sweeter. So I'm curious to see. I'm going to do a little experiment with that, see what it turns out like. I'll be interested to see that. Right here. So this is our succession planting. This is broccoli, right here. A little bit of it came up, some of it survived. And also we have pak choi. Now, like I said, flea beetles. They're just decimating everything. They even punch through this fine mesh. How they do it, I'm not sure. And down over here, the second one, this is cauliflower. It's coming up pretty good. You can see it. Let's be a lesson to you. Don't use hay for mulching, use straw. Because the straw or the hay will put out its seeds. And you'll have a whole bunch of alfalfa sprouting in your garden beds. To every problem, there's a solution. Pick it, lay it down, it's now mulch. Problem solved. Right here is fall kohlrabi. You can see kohlrabi's just starting to bulb up now. Gorgeous little bulbs. One thing I have to do for next year is I have to figure out getting my succession plantings on time, because the end of season for me, end of season is for next week. And some of the stuff isn't gonna be ready for about 2 weeks, like the kohlrabi and the broccoli and cauliflower. So I need to get that more dialed in so that we actually have those vegetables ready. So a bit of tinkering. I know now a lot of this succession planting was just see what happens, but now we know a little bit earlier, adjust it, get it right for next year. If you like this content so far, go ahead, like and subscribe to see more of it. All right, so the cabbage bed. The cabbage is pretty much out. I'm gonna dial in my cabbage growing next year and not have as many beds, but also still have more successions. So also for our late season crops, I started using shade cloth. Two things with the shade cloth: prevents the crop from overheating, but also protects it from late season hail. It's going just well. Get nice little heads in about a week's time. If any of you use shade cloth, go ahead and comment down below. I like to hear your experience with it so far. It's my first year. I'm really curious how far it will go and all the applications I can use with it. All right, so as far as the season extension goes, I use two things. I'll use a floating row cover, as in an agripon or frost blanket, which will keep a lot of that frost off the plants, like the cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower. You can see I have some of it on right now. Keeps bugs out really well, and it also gives a good little bit of frost protection for a light frost at least. Second thing I use is this right here. So a lot of people have seen a caterpillar tunnel, and think of this as a smaller version of it. You don't have to tie a whole bunch of knots to go with it. So it spreads out like so. It's been really hot, so it hasn't been having it fully covered. But in the spring you get really great coverage and really great germination. Like these carrots were ready a week ahead of time. And you can see that you can pull it all the way down to the sides. So when it gets really cold this fall, I can pull it down at night, come up in the morning, and lift up the sides. Still get airflow. A lot of you may be like, but Ian, I don't have I don't have money or a massive garden bed to cover with this. That's no problem. Most frost blankets are sold at a lot of large gardening stores or Home Depots, Ronas, Lowe's, anything like that. And as far as this tunnel goes, you can improvise with a bit of greenhouse plastic or 6mm plastic. Put in little hoops. Best thing you can use for hoops, maybe you have some of those clothes hangers you bend in a shape, put the plastic over top, and you have an easy and quick season extension for your garden. Like I said, it is end of the season, so some of the garden is looking fairly sparse. Like these potatoes, we got a week left on the potatoes, and then that's it. Same with these leeks. Leeks are doing very well. I have more leeks next week for our CSA customers. And then also other half bed is this beets. And these beets, we have been picking super large, maybe like the size of larger than a golf ball, but trying not to have them get massive. All right, that should do it for today. Like I said, end of the season. There's still not as much out in the garden, but still lots coming out, like tomatoes and peppers, carrots, leeks, all of that. So go ahead and check out my August garden tour video over here, and also check out some great recipes. See you on the next one. Have a great day.